Hi guys, welcome back to Deliello. So this is the 5th video out of the 5 in the beginner sewing course, and today you're going to learn how to make a maxi skirt. This is what it looks like. I'm obsessed. And yeah, so I'm going to take you through step by step how to sew your pattern pieces together, and yeah, at the end you're going to have a full-on maxi skirt the way I am wearing now. So let's just jump right into it. So the first thing that we're going to do is take our pattern pieces that we've just cut with the fabric, and we're going to take the pins out. We're going to do this to all of the pieces. So I've just unpinned all of the pieces of pattern paper from the fabric. So now they are each ready to be sewn. So the reason I've just placed this pattern paper over here is to demonstrate to you. So the first thing that we need to do when sewing is do the gatherings. So we're going to gather this seam here, this one, and then we're also going to gather this seam here. So on both sides, like the front and the back, we're going to gather this top seam to 49 centimeters on the middle panel. On the bottom panel, we're again going to do both sides, the front and the back here, and we're going to gather this to 74.5 centimeters. So let's go and do that. Okay, so we're about to start sewing, so make sure your machine is threaded up. If you need to refer back to the first video, you can. And also we need to make sure that we have a thread that matches whatever we're about to be sewing. So my fabric is white and red, so I'm happy to be sewing with white. Okay, so I'm just going to gather this top seam of the middle panel now, and this is being gathered to 49. So I'm doing the same thing where I place my fabric just at the edge. So as we learned in the other video, I'm going to place my fabric into here and then pull the lever down. I've put the settings on to a basting stitch as we want to gather this fabric, and I'm currently working on the middle panel. So now we're just going to do a basting stitch all the way down. Lift up the foot, pull the fabric out, and snip. And now we're going to do this to the other side as well. Then use your measuring tape to see how gathered you've made it. I've actually already got it to 49. I just had to pull it in ever so slightly more. So this one is now ready to tie off, and then I will do the same to the other one. So when I say tie off the end, I literally mean to put a knot on the end just so it doesn't unravel what you've just done. So I'm going to tie one, and then I always do a second double knot just to secure it really in place, and then there's no way it will come out. And then this is what it looks like. It's just a really subtle, nice gather, and what you can do is just gently move the gathers around so it's slightly evened out. Okay, so now we've pinned this side down, which is the front side. We are now going to do the same thing to the back. So again, just make sure it's facing the right side up and the right side up, and then we want to place those over each other like this. And then we're going to pin this down now as well. Okay, so now we've finished both the front and the back of pinning them together. I've used these little clips, and now we're going to stitch just a simple running stitch along both of these. So now we're going to sew this seam together. So as we've done before, we're just going to place it in the end, lift our foot up, position it nicely so it's got 1 centimeter allowance, and then do a couple stitches forward and then a few back. And then we're just gonna do a straight running stitch all the way down. Okay, and when we get to the end, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to reverse stitch a few, and then lift the foot up and pull it out. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like once you finish stitching. So they're both going to be attached together, and then when you open it out, there's going to be a really lovely gathered seam here, so you're not going to be able to see any of that excess fabric here because it's going to be on the inside. So on the outside you should have a really lovely line that looks like this, and that is a finished seam. We are now going to do this to the other piece as well, so we're going to do the same stitch line. Okay, so now we've sewn the front and the back. This is the top panels and these are the middle panels. Now we're going to go and gather the bottom panels. So now we're moving on to the bottom panel, and we're going to gather this top seam the way we did with the middle panel. So all we have to do for this is the same as the other one. We're just going to do a basting stitch across the top, and then we can gather it by hand. So I'm just going to gather this to the correct measurement all the way along, which is 79.5 centimeters. And this is now the ruffled bottom panel, and we want to attach this to the bottom of the middle panel, which is why it's 79. So I'm just going to carry on gathering this, tie it off at both ends, and then I will do the same to the back. Okay, so now we've gathered the bottom panels. What I've done is I've laid it out so you can visually see how it's going to work. So obviously we've sewn this one together, and we're now going to sew the bottom panel to the middle panel. So what we're going to do is we're going to fold this back on itself again so the right sides are together, and then we're going to pin it, which is what I've done on this one. So I've used my little clips, but you can use pins, and we're going to do a straight running stitch down here, and make sure you back stitch the top and the bottom of your seam. And we just want to make sure we're doing this on both the front and the back panel, so that the full thing will be sewn on both of them. This is what they look like when they're finished. This is the front and this is the back panels, and the gathers have all been stitched into place now down the seams. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to attach them together. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put them right sides together. So we're going to put them on top of each other with the right sides together, and we're going to stitch down the side seams. So I'm going to pin this into place, make sure the wrong side is facing up and the right sides are together, and then we're going to stitch down these two seams. So this is what the skirt looks like once we've pinned both of the side seams, and now we're going to stitch them into place using the same running stitch we've been using throughout this video. Okay, so I'm now going to overlock all of the seams, but as I said in an earlier video, if you don't have an overlocker, you can just do a zigzag stitch and then a running stitch either side, and that will still prevent your fabric from fraying. So I will go and overlock all of the seams and then I will show you it when it's done. So now I've overlocked all of the seams. This is just to stop the edges from fraying, as I said in the learning the stitches video. So if you would like to also do this, as I said earlier, you can just do your zigzag stitch and then 2 running stitches either side, and that will secure it just in the same way that a proper overlock stitch will. So I'm also going to do this overlock stitch around the top, the whole way around on the front and the back, and also on the hem. So I'm going to do the overlock all the way around both of these, top and bottom, and then we will come back. So I've just finished doing the overlock around the top and also the bottom of the skirt. So now all of the edges feel nice and clean, and we're going to be turning up the hem and stitching it into place. So for the top stitch of the hem, what we're going to do is we're going to line it up with the 2 centimeter mark, which is on your machine, and then I'm just going to make sure that I'm in line with this the whole way around as I'm sewing the top stitch on the hem. The next thing that I've done is I have folded the waistband down, and I folded it down 2.5 centimeters because my elastic is 2 centimeters. So if you check what size elastic you have, then that will dictate how far down you need to fold your waistband. So because mine was 2, as I said, you need to plus 0.5 because that leaves room for you to stitch a top stitch. So I folded it down and I'm now just going to put it in place, and that will make the top stitching easier. So I'm just going to use an iron to press that up. And then I'm going to pin it in place the whole way around. I'm going to use pins this time because it is a bit further down from the edge. So if I use the little clips, it might not be as accurate. So I'm going to pin this the whole way around, and then we will go onto the sewing machine. As I said, we're going to top stitch this waistband now. So what I actually like to do is do it from the inside, just so you can see exactly what's going on. This is especially great method for beginners because you don't need to have your measurements perfect. You can just literally follow this line here. So we're going to do it from the inside, and what you're going to do is take it to just inside where your overlock is. So that would be here, and you're going to stitch here. And this will ensure that this is in place and it won't come up, but all of this is still empty for our elastic to go into. So we're going to put the needle in line with that area. We're then going to put the foot down, and we can start sewing there. Don't forget to take your pins out as you go around the sewing machine, because otherwise it might actually break your needle. Okay, so we're near the end now. The start of our stitch is here, and then we have this gap at the moment. So what we want to do is we want to leave quite a big gap as we want to insert our elastic. So I'm going to leave, I would say, a roughly 5 to 6 centimeter gap here, and I'm just going to back stitch this now. And then remove, so we are able to thread our elastic in. Okay, so now I'm going to cut my elastic, and my original waist measurement was 68 centimeters, and I like to remove 2 for waistbands with elastic because it just sits a little bit nicer, and then it can go a bit smaller or a bit bigger depending on the day. And then, so that makes it 66, but then I'd like to add an extra 2 centimeters for seam allowance. And seam allowance is just the bit that we're going to sew over and then cut off. So I'm going to go cut it at 68, and then we're able to sew it. Now we want to thread the elastic into the waistband. So we're going to take our piece of elastic that we've just measured for our waist, and then we're going to use a safety pin and pin the end of the elastic, just like this. The bigger the pin, the easier it will be for you to thread it through. And then we're gonna find the gap that we just left in the waistband. And then you're going to thread this through the waistband. So you're going to put it in the gap here and thread it all the way around. And you just kind of shuffle it along. The safety pin is really useful in this scenario. It's much harder if you don't have one. So something to mention is when you reach this point where your elastic is almost about to go fully into the thing, make sure you catch it before it does that, because otherwise it would be quite tricky to pull it back out. And what you're going to do is you're just going to take a pin and pin it to the fabric, the elastic to the fabric, just so it doesn't move once you continue to pull, because it's going to start to gather up. So we're just going to pin that in place here so that it doesn't get lost in the tube. And then we're going to carry on threading it until this one comes out the other end. So this is what your waistband should look like with the elastic in, and then I've just pulled both ends out and secured it with a safety pin, and now I'm just going to stitch down here just to secure it in place. Okay, so I've just trimmed off the edge of that, and now we can let it go into the rest of the waistband. And finally what we're going to do is we're going to pin down this hole here and top stitch along the top of it so that it's fully secured into it. So I've just stitched that into place, and now the waistband is finished. The finished skirt, I'm really happy with the outcome. It's got a really nice gathered waistband here with elastic, and then it's got these beautiful gathers at the front, and the hem is super crisp and nice. So I think we've done a really good job, and I'm going to try it on now to show you what it looks like. So this is the final skirt, and I'm really happy with it. I think it looks super cute, and I love the little gathers. This is the back. So it's really nice. And yeah, I love the fact I did it in a little gingham fabric, but honestly you can use whatever fabric you have, and we'd love to see some pictures that you guys can take of the skirts that you make, so do send them over. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the full little sewing course for beginners, and I hope you now know how to use a sewing machine, and that you also got a maxi skirt that you love out of it. So thanks for watching. Bye.